Hi, Beanie. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm well. How are you?
I am terrific. I haven't seen you since, I guess, the interview and photography for the book we featured you in, Rose Smith and I, Black Women in
Mhm.
Business, Journeys in Resilience. So it's good to see you again.
Good to see you as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I have a thought question for you. I've been considering um, the term ally and allyship recently, and I wanted to ask you if someone were to ask you, how can I be a good ally? Or what does it mean to be a good ally? How might you answer? How could you respond to that?
It's interesting that you asked that question because a lot of people are asking that question, like, what is an ally and what does it take? And some people call themselves allies, and other people might scratch their heads, and or we called some people allies. And trust me, I think one of the biggest places where I've been having this conversation is related to the African American Leadership Institute that
Mhm.
I've helped found and launch in 2021. And that was a big conversation that continues to this day. We even had an allyship breakfast, where we just said, let's come talk and have roundtable discussions about allyship in a fireside chat, and really dug into it. And quite honestly, there's this and there's that, and there are different sides and thoughts around this. And I get asked this question actually quite often now as I go talking about Ali, which is for short. We
Yeah.
shorten the name by saying Ali. And people ask that a lot, like, where do we get started? I want to help, I want to dig in. And quite honestly, I'm like, sometimes we overcomplicate things or think something has to be big. We
Yeah.
need now some big initiative, and there are some of those. And you've seen in the Central Texas area, mayors and different groups roll out things like undoing racism and
Mhm.
workshops that are getting people more equity focused and diversity focused, but unpacking what all that means.
Mhm.
And those are places that you can show up in an organized, structured fashion and start to unpack, our biases, our traditional thinking about these things. They're all over the place. There's workshops happening everywhere all the time. I know with Ali, we've examined that, and we've even been called to the carpet for some of the people that we list as allies. And, we have our rationale for that. And, we're unwavering in that, but we do realize then that clearly there are different definitions for one. There's
Good point.
not there are people that have maybe written some books about it, but there's a lot of opinions. I don't know that there's so much of a science that has been developed around this. And part of what I tell people is you could just start simple by getting to know people,
Mhm.
getting to know the people that you don't know, that
Mhm.
makes you feel like, okay, I would ally. Well, that kind of means that you don't already know people from this community, whether it's people of color, women, whatever it is. Start getting to know them in the same way that you get to know your regular social circle, inviting them or showing up where they convene and maybe feeling a little awkward and getting a little bit of a taste of what it feels like to be them, possibly
Mhm.
be the outsider, be the only one, show up in places and just start getting to know people without a context, without a power dynamic of someone is coming, to you for approval or a job or funding or an investment or, some kind of tangible support. You're making a decision about it. Just get to know them absent of titles and all of that, like you would at a backyard barbecue or on the boat, at the lake, or and invite each other to these different settings and just make friends. Because quite honestly, part of what I've seen is the miscommunication. People just don't even know one or two people from a certain group that they're talking about
Mhm.
outside of work relationships or their own family. relationship. So, one, just start getting to know people in order to start developing common ground. And then you can ask them how you can be supportive, and they'll tell you. And when they tell you, be ready to support that in the ways that they need it, versus telling them how you think you should be a support. Because once again, that shifts it, right? That's back to power dynamic. You kind of have the answers or the solution, and you're not really allying in a way that they really need. But chances are people can use support in a lot of different ways. There are lots of different organizations and circles and associations that you can tap into. You can Google them. If you don't know, I know here in Central Texas, I always offer myself to connect. I know like over 200 nonprofits and all the people working in lots of different spaces, not just the BIPOC, not just this, but all of them, and the institutions and the systems. And so, allyship can look a lot of different ways. I would say also one very powerful method of allyship that I noticed in a conversation with someone who has become an ally for Ali was connections that, no one had thought of. We were approaching them for maybe help with funding or all of that. But what we all realized together during that initial meeting where we first met was he just has access to people that we've been trying to get to for upwards of 10, 20 years, quite honestly, and can't even get a conversation with, and have tried multiple times. He's like, oh, that's easy for me. I can call a conversation, no problem. These are kind of like friends in business and all of that. And we realized very quickly that, connections are something that are often guarded pretty heavily and valued, and that's for lots of reasons. But one form of allyship is to open up your Rolodex and connect people to the people they really need to get to, not just to more people that do something similar to what they do. Like they know a lot of those people, they often need to get to someone that they can't get to. And it's a great question is to even probe, how can I support, you, if I can't do it directly for you, how can I get you to the right person? Who are the right people? And you can ask those kinds of questions as well as an individual and help with your personal resources. And then of course, there's always the initiatives, the partnerships and collaborations between formal organizations or groups that can always occur. And I think one of the keys, whereas we could kind of cross-cut about all the different definitions and what it is and what it isn't and how people do this and that. I think the key is just listening to each other with a voice or with an ear to listen.
Yeah.
And not to respond with our thoughts and opinions, but truly just listen, absorb that, dig into it more where you don't understand. And again, just, I can't emphasize enough getting back to common ground, common understanding, because if you don't even understand each other, there's just going to be conflict. It's just going to be tension. So, you got to get to that root of being able to, and if you disagree, there's a way to disagree and still work together, and still have progress in your actions and your intent. So all of those things, but I think at the most granular level, it's back to human connection and starting to get to know people.
Absolutely. Well, you've taken a mystery word that's really not a mystery word, but it's a mystery word because I think people want to know, well, define it for me. And what are the boxes I need to tick? And you've taken it and just said it's much more simple than that. It doesn't have to be a hard and fast definition that these are the things that make you an ally, but you've made it very simple and very understandable. And we just have to take the step to begin.
Well, and when you take that step, that's when you get to know people and you make friends, just like when you're kids, make friends,
Yeah.
you actually develop a care and
Yeah.
concern
Yeah.
for them. So then, their feelings matter to you, and you don't just kind of barrel over them. Again, even if you're different, even if you disagree, that just casual, informal connection starts to develop a care and concern and a love between people that is the root of the human to human connection and why we're even here, probably in the first place, right?
Yeah.
And then that begins to drive everything else. If you establish that, and they call you an ally, or you don't even have to call yourself anything, just be and just connect
Yeah.
and, develop that true care and concern for other people. And when you start to do that, you start to also just experience life to the fullest.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. I love that. Most beautiful answer. Thank you. Thanks, BiNi. Gonna take it to heart. Thank you.
Thank you.